The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast, presented by the team at Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish or less. Whether you are a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. So grab your coffee, grab your water, important to stay hydrated, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed in the federal benefits space this week. We are your hosts. I am Katelyn Murray, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. Dan Sipe.
How you doing, Katelyn?
I'm doing well. This is the announcement that I keep trying to make on every podcast episode and forgetting because our schedule's been a little funky lately with recording. This is my last episode for a little while. It's true. It's my last episode for a little while. I'm taking a little bit of leave for a wedding and a little honeymoon vibe. So although I love our audience and Dan very dearly, I'm not going to take you with me on my honeymoon.
Okay.
So
taking me would be weird. It'd be weird.
That's fair.
And I get along really well. I get along really well with your intended, but that would be weird.
That's true. So in my absence, we will have the lovely Jen Meyer on for the next couple of episodes. Jen has been on our podcast many a time before, and she is a wonderful co-host, so she will be subbing in for me, but I'll be back. I'll come back around in a couple of weeks. Hopefully Absolutely. A lot more like relaxed. I would say tanner, but we're going to Amsterdam, so not really tanner, but more cultured.
There you go.
Perhaps. So...
well, a dazzling cosmopolitan like you will do very well.
We shall see. I'm hoping for a pair of those wooden clogs. Maybe I can do some clogging on a future episode of the Fed15.
Nice. Well, Katelyn, on the subject of travel, we have some folks that are really getting their frequent flyer miles right now. And that would be our Artemis crew.
That's true.
And I've been remiss. I should have been bringing this up. Because I am such a space geek. And, some of the photos they're sending back just remind me of what amazing things we can do if we put our heads together and point in the right direction. And, to a person, the people that I've seen interviewed that have gone deep into space have come back with a perspective that is shifted for the rest of their lives. About that we are all citizens of this little fragile blue ball. And if we put our minds to it, we can make it work. And we have been shooting rockets up through some very rancorous times. I have a little book plug for anybody here. If you're looking for an early spring read, it's actually a pretty good summer read. It's called Rocket Men. And it talks about the first Apollo mission that went out of orbit and around the moon and came back. Now, we think about that as like, but I've been to the moon, no big deal. Yeah, well, these people had never been to the moon. And no people had ever been to the moon. And so there was no guarantee with any of this. And ironically, it was a very rancorous time in society and a very rancorous time in the world. And yet out of it was this incredible green shoot for all humanity that we can do this. So I'm super, super geek for space. But aside from that,
I've been loving the videos that the Artemis crew is sending out. Very cool to follow them on social media. Very good
I'm
stuff.
sure any surviving Apollo astronauts are looking at the size of that capsule going, hey, wait a minute.
Spacious. True.
So what do we have up for this episode?
Yeah, back here on Old Earth, we've got an interesting episode today covering a couple different topics that I think are pretty relevant for most feds. Dan's going to talk to us a little bit about the FERS annuity supplement. This is sort of a recurring topic for us in meetings with feds who are looking at, figuring out when they want to retire. And the folks who are looking at going out prior to age 62, the supplement, some folks know this as the bridge, is kind of a big piece of their overall financial planning. So Dan's going to talk to us a little bit about how that works and kind of give us some perspective there. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about everybody's favorite topic, which is commuting. So looking at the cost and time of commuting and, how that factors into lifestyle choices that you may make. So before we get there, though, Dan, tell me about this FERS annuity supplement that I can collect when I am out the door the day that I turn 57.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm a big fan of all the federal benefits, and they're sort of like a family. FERS annuity supplement is that cousin that always disappoints you. And I can hear the keyboards clacking because my heart was broken the other day because I'm on all the message boards, and I saw somebody ask, my spouse died. Do I still keep the annuity supplement from him? And the answer is no. So the annuity supplement was when it came in with the FERS system, it was in an effort to make FERS as close to CSRS as possible. And at the time when FERS came in, a CSRS employee could retire at 55, 30 years. Well, now, since FERS was going to recognize the impact of Social Security and contributing to it, you can't do that at 55 or 57 or anything before 62. So the annuity supplement was created, but it was not created, in my opinion, well. So if we go straight by the letter, the FERS annuity supplement helps bridge income between MRA and age 62 when Social Security begins, and the supplement ends once Social Security benefits start. So if somebody goes out at MRA, say 57 with 30 years, then they're going to be on the FERS annuity supplement for 5 years. It'll be based upon what their age 62 Social Security would have been if it was discounted for taking it even earlier. Now, here's the problem. There's no COLA on that FERS annuity supplement, just as there's no COLA for your FERS pension if you go out at 57. So you're going 5 years with two significant components of your income not having any cost of living adjustment. And I'm not here to bash this, but I'm also not here to defend it. Okay, too many people go out and find out a year in that these things are the case. So, in a nutshell, you get to that MRA, you're before age 62, so it's MRA with 30 years or age 60 with 20 years, and you've got that supplement that comes in. Now, here's the thing. A whole lot of people go out and get a second job if they retire early. And you can find yourself earning your way out of the FERS annuity supplement. Because just as when you claim Social Security, if you claim at 62 and you're still working, you go over a certain threshold, for every $2 in income, you can lose $1 of benefit, and you can earn your way out of it. Now, with Social Security, when you get to full retirement age, they start giving it all back to you little by little, your future payments. You do that with FERS supplement, you don't get it. So, all that glitters is not gold. I'm going to say to everybody watching and listening to this podcast, stay till 62. Now, you may not get that choice. A lot of people didn't get that choice last year, so we had to cobble together as best we could. So I'm going to cover the FERS supplement in the event that you don't get that choice. But if you get that choice, stay till 62 with at least 20 years. You're going to get a bump to the pension. Ed did a great article. We have several articles comparing staying till 62 versus going out early with the FERS supplement. FERS supplement gets waxed every single time. So, solutions crossing the income divide. Analyze income versus expenses. So review your after-tax spending habits. Okay. Estimate the retirement income that you have from FERS pension and what you might be able to draw from TSP. and reduce financial gaps in advance. Start paying down debt and cutting expenses before you get there. Consider some part-time work. So that would mean staying in federal service part-time to go out a bit further. A couple of things to think about with that FERS supplement coming in. You could end up with the FERS pension, FERS supplement, and TSP withdrawals. You might be crossing into higher tax brackets. Okay. So you may want to consider, even if you retire, looking for some part-time work. So you go up to, say, $20,000 a year. That takes some pressure off the fact that you don't have any cost of living adjustments. Now, think in terms of how you're going to draw from TSP assets, and think in terms of building them out into buckets. So bucket number 1, 12 to 24 months. I think that's fine for the G fund for short-term expenses. Bucket number 2 would be the F fund. That might go 3 to 5 years. And then bucket number 3, which is 5 years plus, that's where you have your CS and I funds so that you're staying ahead of inflation. Because we know you're going to be behind inflation if you go out an MRA. Okay? And here's the other thing. If you are, and hopefully you're a youngster listening to this, if you are considering age 57, if you're considering MRA, minimum retirement age, you also need the other MRA, massive retirement assets. So you need to be really, really, really maximizing that TSP early and often, okay, to do that. And again, can't encourage you enough, stay till 62 if you can, because if you're going to go out and get another job, you may earn your way out of the supplement. So in that case, as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you, if that's a possibility for you, reach out to us, schedule a part 2, and I will talk you through how you can use it as a negotiating technique for your new job, because you're going to lose the first supplement. And that's why they have to pay you more. Okay. Trust me, we've done it. It's worked. Okay. But think very, very carefully about going early. I would say 62 is the minimum earliest that you should consider. And you're still pretty doggone young. My next birthday is going to start with a 7. 62 feels real young to me. Trust me. I would happily turn the clock back 8 years from where I am right now. So that's what I got, Katelyn. Stay in school, folks.
Yeah, that FERS supplement, I definitely agree with you, Dan. I think it's not quite what it's cracked up to be. The income earnings cap is pretty low. And honestly, a lot of the feds that we meet, even if you want a job change, you're not looking to, totally to make less than $20,000 a year. So I think a lot of times even the for fun retirement jobs that folks have outpace that cap. So
yes.
Anywho,
Absolutely.
Something to think about there. So let's kind of turn our discussion now to a little bit more, away from retirement and a little bit more into the slog of the career with everybody's favorite topic, commuting. So commuting is a bit of a sore subject as of 2025. A lot of feds got to experience remote work prior to 2025 through I'm trying to think of a word that won't get us shadow banned on YouTube, through the events of 2020, if you were there. But we had a little bit more of a shift in the mindset around remote work. And then obviously in 2025, we have seen a turn back, many feds being called back to the office. And return to office obviously significantly impacts your budget when it comes specifically to commuting costs. Also, when it comes to your time budget, to your time commitments and your kind of lifestyle rhythm. So we've got a great article on the blog that talks through kind of how to get your hands around commuting expenses and how to kind of make that a mindful part of your budget. It's got details on calculating your annual commuting expenses in fuel or transit, parking, tolls, maintenance, tires, oil. I know if you're in the DC metro area, in that Maryland, Virginia district kind of area, tolls are a huge piece of your overall commuting budget. But the estimated time impact of commuting can often be more significant, I think. Long commutes can total 500 plus hours per year, which is a long time. And obviously, when we have new costs coming in, that does kind of create the need potentially to consider your secondary costs. So your takeout meals, your paid help at home, your childcare, things like that. So a lot of folks we saw during the increase in flexibility around remote work, some of them moved. Some of them moved somewhat far from their duty stations. And now folks who are kind of in that bucket are reevaluating long commutes that were originally justified by those hybrid work arrangements. So if you're going to the office 2 days a week, you're able to work remotely from a home office 3 days a week. It's a very different situation than if you were going in every single day of the week. Obviously, if you're looking at this kind of trade-off, you want to make sure you're running financial scenarios, assuming 5 days in office and comparing that to your hybrid schedule. I would say even if you're not in that situation yet, but you are in a hybrid schedule and there's, a possibility that things may change up on you, it's always good to know what that commute is going to cost. And then you can compare, once you have the price tag, you can compare it to alternatives like temporary weekday housing near the office. A lot of people will do ride shares where they kind of pool resources to help impact or reduce the costs of commuting. Your salary and your locality pay are going to be based on your official duty station, not your residence location. So that's something to think about as well, especially for my folks who are in that DC metro area who are maybe in West Virginia commuting in. That often will make a big difference, the official duty station versus the residence location. Policy changes affecting your duty station status could alter your compensation, and your relocation timing should really, at the end of the day, you want it to support your retirement planning rather than complicate it.
Yes.
So what do we do if we want to look at a move, right? Let's say we've figured out our commuting costs, we've figured out our overall retirement plan, and given the time frame that we'll be working at this duty station, we have determined that a move is for the best, right? So a lot of time and thought goes up to getting to that point. But if you are at that point, a relocation can create a short-term financial strain associated with closing costs on a new property, repairs, moving expenses. Lord knows, movers are very expensive. I've never regretted $1 I've paid a mover, but they are very expensive. Things that you need to be making sure you're doing in that situation, you want to make sure that you've got about 6 months of liquid expenses during that transition so that you can avoid reducing your TSP contributions or selling investments, particularly in a volatile market like what we're in right now. You want to consider the sequence of transactions associated with that relocation. So are you selling first? Are you getting temporary housing? Are you buying first? And how does that, does that put you in between two mortgages? What does your ability to manage that indefinitely look like? Or renting temporarily. I'm a big fan of renting when you're moving to a new area. At least initially, it lets you figure out where you want to be in that area and really kind of get to know it more than you would on a regular visit. Just a reminder that your high 3 pension calculation is going to depend on the highest 3 years of consecutive basic pay, and that includes locality pay. So something to factor in if you're moving between locations. And moving to a lower locality pay area during those years could reduce your lifetime pension benefit. So think through that as well. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're always looking at your FEHB plan network coverage in your new location before you're relocating, because you get one shot at renewing your FEHB plan, and that's in November of every year. So if you're moving in January, it could be a long stretch. So looking at this through the retirement lens, so long-term costs beyond housing price that are associated with locality, you've got to think about the state taxation of your federal pension income and Social Security. So if you're moving from a no state tax state to a state tax state, that's going to impact the outcome of things. Property tax rates, though, a lot of times people will get caught up in looking at state tax and they don't look at the property tax rates, okay? Moving to Florida is not as cheap as you think. Look at the property tax rates, okay? Look at the sales tax and things like that. Homeowners insurance and utility costs, that's another big one that gets Florida. Make sure you're checking out what the homeowners costs are because you could be surprised. And also auto insurance, that's another one that you're going to want to check. And then healthcare access and provider networks, because if you're always having to go out of network for something, you're going to have higher costs associated there. Lifestyle considerations, I'm always big on this category because I think that this is the biggest impact to quality of life. You can redo your budget, you can't redo your values. Proximity to family Is that important to you? And if so, what does this new location look like for that? Airport access and travel convenience, that's a big one for me because I do like to go places. I do be going places. And in order to go places, you need access. You don't want to trust me, I promise you, you don't want to have a 5-hour drive after you do like a 12-hour flight. You don't want that. You don't want that. So if you're somebody who travels, check out what your travel convenience looks like in that area. And then climate and community, just if it's some things just are not your vibe. My grandmother, bless her heart, she really was not one for like a retirement home environment. She did not want to be with other people. She wanted to be able to go out and enjoy other people and then come to her home and not have to deal with people, right? As opposed to, another family friend that I have who comes to mind who absolutely thrives in and loves her retirement community. And she loves having folks around her, that she can talk to, spend time with anytime, basically. So know thyself and look for what you want in that area. And then you want to look at 3 different scenarios, basically. You want to look at staying in your current location, adjusting your budget and your time to that commute, relocating to an area that is closer to your duty station, and the costs that are associated with that, and also the lifestyle trade-offs that are associated with that. And then staying where you're at for now, relocating at retirement, okay? And you want to make sure you're testing your assumptions by adjusting mortgage rates, home values, transportation costs, because all of those costs are going to fluctuate a little bit. So you want it low end, high end is sort of what I recommend. Overall, you want to make sure that relocation makes sense in the grand scheme of your overall financial plan. So if you're somebody who's like 20 years out from retirement, it may not make as big of a difference. But if you're somebody who's looking to retire in the next 5-ish years, a relocation could make a huge impact on your overall plan and your expected monthly spending. So compare your relocation scenarios while maintaining the same retirement timeline and savings target. And then you may want to stress test it with some higher costs or maybe an expedited retirement just to see how much wiggle room you have there. Overall, we always say, not everybody needs a financial planner, but everybody needs a financial plan. You want to make sure that you're considering big decisions like this in the context of your overall financial plan and what it means for you. So
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, that's that on that. And then pro tip from Dan via me. Commuting is a great time to throw on those audiobooks and learn something new. You can make the commute less sucky. I'm not going to say you can make it good, but you can make it productive, let's say.
And I'm so excited. And by a number of estimates,
the
United States, we might only be 2 years away from level 3 autonomous driving.
Wow.
So that means hands off, eyes off. Okay. And think about how your commute changes. If the system and the sensors are making the decisions for you, and more importantly, taking the bad decisions away from the people that drive you crazy out there. Okay. No joke. Okay. That's hands down the people I talk to. The thing that kills them on their commute is what other people are doing. So all of a sudden, if we've got a ton of autonomous vehicles behaving politely, okay, we get there faster, we get there safer. So,
it'll be life-changing for the state of Maryland.
Again, my next birthday begins with a 7. And I said to Mary, I'm not getting a new car. I said, because I wait a couple of years, that car might drive me places. And I really like that. And I'll take really good care of that car. And I'll feed that car very well. It'll be a beloved member of my family. And I'll give you one more, because you can always count on this for me, because I'm the weirdo that's thinking about the future. Okay. Peter Diamandis projects 10 billion with a B, billion humanoid robots in service, in households, in society by 2040. So,
wow.
Yes, stuff's messed up right now, but we have some things going that can make it better. Don't jump too early on things, including, I got to get out of this and handle a different commute, because I'll tell you something else that changes, because I've seen it. Around the firm, it's almost a drinking game. whether Dan's going to say 40 years or almost 4 decades. Okay. But I've done this almost 4 decades working with feds. And you know what? It hasn't been the same administration the whole time.
Fair.
So administrations change, and administrations come in with different priorities, and new administration come in and say, you know what? Let's expand virtual. So don't let current dour feelings drive you. Be objective to the best of your ability. So that's me off the soapbox. Sorry about that.
Got it. No, I think that's it. I believe that is also all the time that we have for today, folks.
Yep.
Dan's going to be back next week. I won't be with you next week, but I will be back eventually. And to make sure that you're here for that episode and for all the Jen and Dan episodes, they tend to be my favorites personally. Make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast on our YouTube channel. If you're listening there, on Spotify, if you're listening there, so that you never miss an episode. Subscribing is about you receiving notifications, but it tells the platforms that we're on to boost this content and show it to more feds. So even if you don't need the notifications, I'm not a notification person myself, but go ahead and subscribe just so it boosts the signal so that we can reach more feds who need this benefits education and who we can help. And please do never underestimate the value of word of mouth. If this episode was interesting to you, share it with your colleagues and friends, and hopefully they can learn a bit about their benefits as well.
Indeed. And in the words of the game show, but wait, there's more. For even more information on the topics we covered today and way more, check out our blog at STWS.com and subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving. Each week, we're going to ship out our 3 best things, and there's plenty more beyond that coming to you every week. You don't even have to go look.
And if you do want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for feds, remember the Fed15 is supposed to be a bite-sized little flavor sampler of federal benefits education. On our website, we have complimentary webinars covering all of the major areas of federal benefits education. We've got stuff like FERS, FEHB, FEHB, TSP, survivor benefits, Social Security, tax planning for feds, financial planning for feds. We've got a ton of stuff there where you can dive in and really, really, really get to understand your benefits. We have 2 sessions coming up that I want to make mention of. On April 28th, we have an FEHB and Medicare session that is going to be hosted by Dan and presented by Ed Zerndorfer himself, the federal benefits guru. That's going to be from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on May 1st, we have a FERS session. That's going to be on your FERS pension. So we'll talk a lot about that supplement in that session. Dan is hosting that as well. Ed is presenting. That is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And again, that's Eastern Standard Time. Now, if at any point in time you think, I know that they said that not everybody needs a financial planner, but everybody needs a plan. But I think I might need a financial planner and somebody to talk to when the markets are going crazy and there's lots of political instability and the S&P is down like 4%, and I'm feeling a little bit nervous about my TSP balance. You can always reach out to us at meetings@STWServe to set up a financial planning consultation, and we'd be happy to work with you one-on-one in that context as well.
Absolutely. So, folks, thank you once again for your service. Thank you for listening to Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe, and she is the amazing...
I am Katelyn Murray.
And we will see you next week.
Take care, guys.